The true embodiment of the phrase, the book is always better. Hi, welcome, come on in. My name is Aoife, and today I am taking you through some of the book to movie or book to TV adaptations that I truly do not stand behind. There are a couple that I have really enjoyed, but on the flip side, there are some that really should have just stayed at a book. We're starting off with two books from exactly the same author, and I don't think that that's a good sign for them. The first one is P.S. I Love You by Cecilia Ahern, and one of my biggest gripes with this book is how they changed the setting. The book was set in Dublin, and there was so much to enjoy about a Dublin setting. Not only because I'm an Irish person, but because it is always just great to have a little bit more variety in the movies that we're watching. Then you bring it to the big screen, and it is set in New York, and it's just not as magical. Okay, they do go on a holiday to Dublin, Holly and her two friends, but it just didn't have that same magic as walking through the actual streets of Dublin compared to being in that over touristy hellscape that is Temple Bar. One of the other absolute travesties of this movie is Gerard Butler's accent. Now, he's Scottish, so you would imagine that he wouldn't be that awful at an Irish accent. But my goodness, this man's Irish accent was absolutely woeful. It is almost up there with Tom Cruise's really bad accent in Far and Away. It was almost a caricature of an Irish accent. And I really enjoyed the book when I read it. It just took so much of the enjoyment out of it for me. Cecilia Ahern's second book on this list appears for a very similar reason, and that is Love, Rosie. This is the adaptation of Where Rainbows End, and again, the setting in this is completely stripped away. Instead of being set in Dublin and in Boston, this is now set in London, and I really hated that. But as well as this, it takes away a lot of the spark between Alex and Rosie. It takes away a lot of the questions between the child that Rosie has when she's 18. There's a lot of differences then between the book and the movie that I really think they should have given more to Katie's origin story. I really loved this book. This was my favorite Cecilia Ahern book for such a long time, and I was devastated to see the treatment that this was given on the screen. One that is on this list because it's just so completely bonkers is The Cat in the Hat by Dr. Seuss. The Mike Myers movie is almost like an LSD trip. There is just so much color and speed and zaniness and insanity that you almost have to be on a kind of a trip to watch it. I have never really sat through the entire thing because I just find it to be so juvenile and so completely insane. Now, I know that this is a kids movie. I know I'm not necessarily the target audience. I think I was already in my late teens, early 20s by the time the movie even came out. But even so, if it's a comfort childhood book for you, shouldn't you really enjoy the movie? One that I have not enjoyed at all is My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult. Jodi Picoult does a lot of really thought-provoking stories. A lot of them will involve a legal case, a lot of them will involve a family at war with itself, and that was the basis of My Sister's Keeper. A young woman named Anna was born basically as a genetically modified child so that she could be a savior child for her older sister Kate, who was going through cancer. And when Anna finds this out, she endeavors to become medically emancipated from her parents. There is a huge court case that happens the entire of the way through the novel, and I was gripped on this book. The ending of the book completely shattered me because there is so much elation that happens, and then you turn 2 pages later and everything is destroyed. The ending of the book left me absolutely distraught, but the ending of the movie is just one we do not talk about because it went down that so predictable route that you just know they're going to take it down. And to be honest, for a while you do think that Jodi Picoult is going to go down that route. But when it is a completely different outcome, it's such a breath of fresh air. And to see that being turned on its head and become something so tired and overdone in the movie, it's just such a turn off. If you haven't learned by now, I am a stickler for you have to stick to the source material here. And that's a big reason why, while I do really enjoy it, The Princess Diaries by Meg Cabot, the Disney adaptation, does take away a bit from me. In the Disney adaptation, they kill off Mia's dad. They don't want to have to explain to a bunch of children what testicular cancer is, and that's fair. But they could have gone through a whole other host of reasons as to why Mia's dad is no longer in her life, and as to why he is no longer able to have children. It could have been literally any reason that you could pluck out from the sky. But another thing that I didn't really enjoy is that they take away from New York. New York is in itself a character of the Princess Diaries, and it's such a big part of the books. There's so much that happens in the Plaza Hotel. There's so much that happens in Central Park, in Ho's Deli. There's so much that happens around the city that moving the movie to San Francisco, while it was great and it gave us the trolley scene that everybody knows and loves, it just took away from such a big part of the books. A childhood book that I love an adaptation of and then despise an adaptation of is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl. I absolutely adore the 1970s classic. It's a Christmas staple. It is on in my house every single year in the lead up to Christmas. As for the Tim Burton, Johnny Depp one, I like to forget that this exists. In a similar vein to The Cat in the Hat, this feels like a trip. And it's not the kind of vibes that I want to have when I'm going into a story like that. There are some issues with the 1970s one. Don't get me wrong, there are a couple of things that I would pick out and that I would change up. But when it comes to the more modern version, it's just not the story that I enjoy. I've also never seen Wonka, which is a kind of a spin-off movie of that, focusing just on Willy Wonka and his origin story and how he came to run the world's biggest chocolate factory. I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to go into it because I like to keep things canon. I like to keep it as this is what happens in the books, and anything that happens in a subsequent movie or in a subsequent series of the TV show is just not realistic in my head. That is a big reason as to why I don't necessarily love The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood as an adaptation. Now, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love the books. It's one of the most hard-hitting books that I've ever read in my entire life. But I've only ever watched the first series of the show. Mainly because, in my mind, anything that has happened in the subsequent series isn't realistic and isn't true to Margaret Atwood's vision. And I know that she works as an executive producer on the show, but because it's not written down in any of the books, and I don't necessarily know if anything from the show is in the Testaments, it's just never really seemed like it should have existed for me. Finally, one that left so many of us disappointed is the Divergent series by Veronica Roth. Now, I did have that huge dystopian YA fiction phase when I was in my late teens, so I ate up the Divergent books. And then I went to watch the movies, and I was left so disappointed. Okay, the first one was fine. It wasn't the best cinematography I've ever seen, but it told the story that I needed it to tell. And then everything started getting significantly worse as you kept going on through the series. To the point where I know that there isn't even a fourth movie. I know that the first three have come out and that there was plans to bring out a fourth one, all focused around 4, and that nothing has ever come from that. I think it's one of the biggest book to movie disappointments that any fan has ever had to go through. Those are some of my thoughts on book to movie or book to TV show adaptations that I just don't think are worth your time watching. Are there any book adaptations that you don't necessarily recommend? Do let us know in the comments and we'll be sure to give it a wide berth. If you'd love to leave me a comment but you can't think of anything you'd like to say, then just leave me a thumbs down emoji. Don't forget to like and subscribe because I have new videos up every week. Now, get on out of here.